Welcome to our podcast, Inspiring Living, with me, Mark Candelaria. I am an architect, blogger, traveler, chef, father, and husband. I am the founder and now partner of a fabulous 20-person architecture firm specializing in high-end residential architecture, designing amazing homes across the country. We have hosted tours over the last 20 years to Italy, Spain, and soon Napa. And in the course of all this, I have met a lot of interesting people who truly inspire me. We are excited to now be in our second season, and our podcast is about all the opportunities that are right there in front of us to inspire living. Yes, we will talk about architecture and design, but every week we will venture to all sorts of topics that will inspire you, teach you, and motivate you to inspire living every day. My guests will include a wide gamut of amazing people, from those in the design industry to clients to real estate professionals, chefs, artists, sports figures, and philanthropists, and people who just flat out get it. So sit back and enjoy, and let's have some fun exploring all the opportunities that are there just waiting for us. Please subscribe and get ready to be inspired every week. Okay, as my dad says, here we go. Welcome everyone to our podcast, Inspiring Living. I'm Mark Candelaria. Well, we are winding down April, but boy, I was out early this morning and it is absolutely beautiful. So definitely take advantage of these spring days, as we know those 100-degree temps are not too far off. So get out there, everybody. Well, first, I want to thank Lux Magazine for honoring us with not just one Lux Red Award, but 2 Red Awards. The first was for Best Traditional Classical Architecture for a project and beautiful home that will be featured in Lux Magazine, I believe in the May-June issue. This is a spectacular home built by Schultz Development in Paradise Valley, beautifully landscaped by Berghoff Design, and masterfully orchestrated by principal and architect Meredith Thompson. Congratulations to all of them. Then the second Red Award is for a 64,000 square foot home. Yes, you heard me correctly, 64,000 square feet. We did in North Scottsdale on 10 acres, and that award was for the best wow factor room. And this home was also featured last year in Phoenix Home and Garden magazine. The wow factor room that won was, of course, their personal 2-lane bowling alley, which just happens to be next to their 100-foot indoor gun range, which is next to their indoor racquetball court, which, of course, is next to their 70-foot indoor pool, which is on the other side of the house from their attached and covered 20,000 square foot horse arena. Yes, there were plenty of wow factor rooms in this one, but the bowling alley stole the show. So great job again by builder Schultz Development, and the real accolades go to my wife Isabel and her lead designer Nika Bokniak, who did the interiors and made that space really come alive. And finally, I want to thank my partner and principal Vivian Ayala, who spearheaded this project from start to finish. So congrats to you all for both Red Awards, and thanks to Lux Magazine for the honor. Okay, I will think you all know I'm a pretty positive person, or at least I try to be. My daughter Tiffany, who runs our social media awards submittals, and by the way, great job on the award submittals, and a lot of our marketing, found our guest today while scrolling through the internet and podcasts. Our guest today is Aimee Teesdale, who is an international success coach, author, and speaker, and also has a wonderful podcast. And we connected with her from Ibiza, Spain. So you'll find her insights and steps to inspiring living quite useful, and I found them to be spot on. So give this podcast a listen, and I guarantee you will walk away with some good takeaways for your day and your life. Okay, here we go. Our guest today is Aimee Teesdale, international success coach, author, and speaker. Her focus is on enabling purpose-driven business owners to get out of their own way of success, to become the person they want to be and create the financial prosperity, freedom, and fulfillment that their soul desires. Okay, well, this sounds just absolutely amazing. I was like, okay, let's get to this. I love this. So just so you know, this is like one of my favorite things to talk about. I think if I wasn't an architect, I would have loved to be a success coach or a coach. And I remember reading Napoleon Hill's books when I was like 8 years old. And so this stuff has just always appealed to me. So welcome. It's really great to have you. Now you're over in Spain right now, right?
That's right. I'm in the beautiful island of Ibiza, which is just off the coast of Spain.
Awesome. Now, I've never been to Ibiza. It's definitely a place I want to go. I just mentioned that my niece, I believe, is teaching English to Spanish students in Ibiza right now. And with the COVID thing, she hasn't been able to venture out too much. And so she goes, I've been pretty much trapped on this island. I mean, it's not a bad island to be trapped on.
It's really not. It's really not.
So, but I know she'll have to get out and explore Spain. And like I said, I've been to Spain probably, I don't know, maybe 10 times now. And I just absolutely love Spain. I mean, it's like 7 countries all squeezed into one. Because you can go from area to area. The language is different. The culture is different. It's just, the food's different. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. It's got a really great culture, really great vibe, great weather. It's really amazing to be here.
So first, let's just get to the basics out of the way here. And because it's unique compared to most of our guests, tell us where you're from and you live now in Ibiza. But you've got that British accent, so I know you're not from Spain.
That's right. Yes, that's right. So I'm originally from the UK. I'm from a small town in the center of the UK. After graduating from uni, I moved to London. So I spent most of my 20s in London. But as I was approaching 30, I remembered that I'd always had this dream of emigrating. And I just thought, well, what am I waiting for? So when I turned 30, I moved to Spain. Originally, I moved to Madrid at first, and then about a year ago, I moved out to Ibiza. I just wanted to be by the sea.
Yeah, well, I've been close. I've been to Sevilla, which I know is not too far away, but I've never been on the southern coast of Spain. I know it's quite different from the northern coast of Spain, but I can't wait to explore it all. It's pretty much endless in terms of, I don't think you could ever see all of Spain ever.
Yeah, it's pretty vast. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your operation and what you're doing and why you're here today.
Sure. So like I said, I'm a success coach, and I love working with people and helping them to get out of their own way of success. And the reason why I do that is because for a long, long time, I was in my own way of success. I had this vision of how I wanted my life to be. And well, that vision came about by me sort of meeting different people from different walks of life and seeing what they were up to. And I kind of thought, well, hang on a minute, I want what they're doing, and at the time I didn't really believe in myself, and I didn't think that I was going to be able to create that kind of success and that kind of lifestyle, but I knew I wanted to. So I had to learn how I could get out of my own way and how to reprogram my beliefs and the way I saw myself so that I could create the things that I wanted to create, and live the kind of life that I wanted to live. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping others to do the same. I really just believe that anything is possible,
So it truly is. I mean, I think you stumbled onto something that I talk about all the time, and it's like, quit waiting for things to happen. Just start making them happen. And before you know it, you've traversed so far from where you were that your life has changed and it's morphed into what you had wanted, Yeah. But people are always like you say in the questions here as I was reading, some people just wait endlessly for things to just emerge and happen, and they're just never going to happen that way, in my opinion. You got to make it happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I think another reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I think from an early age I've just kind of understood that life is finite, like our own experience of life is finite, and we're given this window of opportunity to just experience life and to go and make the most of it. And it's like, well, yeah, let's go do it, let's enjoy it, let's have fun, let's go do what we want to do. That's what life is about. It's here for us to enjoy.
Right. And I think the other thing that people use, I think, as an excuse is, well, I don't have the money to go do that, and I don't have the wherewithal to do that. And through my travels in Spain and Italy, I've seen how the people there with very little resources just make the most out of what they do have and really celebrate life and food and being together. And so to me, it's like, you got to just start doing it, whether it's, on $10 or $1,000, whatever it is you have, just start living your dream, as you just alluded to.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I always just think, well, what would you regret more? Would you regret trying it and it not working, or would you regret not trying at all? And for me, I just would always regret not trying at all. So
right. And we all learn so much from the things that don't work too. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I've kind of learned to just go with it. It's just part of the adventure. And again, it's another thing from my trips and our tours. I mean, we can have the most dialed in itinerary, and we think we got it all down like clockwork. And then, a herd of sheep crosses the road and they're there for an hour. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're never going to have dinner, I think things like that happen all the time, not only on trips, but in life, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and just opportunities to learn.
Opportunities to learn. That's exactly right. Okay, now let's start
Yeah.
at the beginning with your childhood. As you
Mhm.
shared, it played a role in your career path and aids in your ability to understand and coach others so well. So I always love going back to people's beginnings and just watch how their path has taken them to where they are today. So let's go way back.
Sure. So, my childhood, well, I grew up, the town that I grew up in was a bit of a rundown working class town, to be honest. It wasn't, it wasn't, it's not the type of place that you'd go and visit, for example.
Right.
I was raised in a family that we didn't really have a huge amount of money. We were classed as a low income family. But they always really encouraged me. My parents encouraged me to get a good education and to leave the town and to go and experience life. So I guess that's where part of the drive and ambition came from. And I was also just really interested in psychology and personal growth, even from a young age. And I just followed that calling. I followed that interest. Which is kind of what's led me on this path, which has been great. But I think what's also sort of really significant about my childhood, which I only found out sort of last year during a huge period of my own period of spiritual awakening and transformation. What happened was I remembered that I'd got my childhood diaries still at home in my parents' house. Yeah. And so I said to my mom, I was like, can you send me my diaries? So she shipped them over to me and I started reading through them. And what was really interesting reading these diaries was that I was very unhappy as a child. Actually, I hated myself, and so I felt like I wasn't loved. I felt like I wasn't wanted. I felt like I wasn't free. I felt like I wasn't pretty. I felt like I wasn't popular. Just all of these things, and so I was actually really deeply unhappy as a child. And so I think that was what spurred my interest in psychology and personal growth, right? Because when you don't feel so great, and you really don't like yourself, you're more motivated to want to change that, right? So I think that's why I've always been so interested in psychology and personal growth. And, at the time, it was not great, obviously, but now I can look back on it and I can see how my experience as a child is really what's got me to where I am, and it's really been the driving force behind my purpose, and I'm grateful for how I felt as a child, because it's what's enabled me to go on this path.
Yeah.
And it's what's enabled me to be able to help others, and help others to do the same, and to heal and to love themselves and to undo things that happen to them in childhood, because that's how we turn out to be how we are. Our childhood experiences and things that we encounter during our childhood years really shape how we see the world, how we see ourselves, and therefore what's possible for our lives. When I'm working with my clients, if there's some kind of limiting belief that's in their way, you can always trace it back to childhood. So, those childhood years are so formative.
Yeah.
In our lives.
Yeah, I think everyone probably just needs to take the time to maybe take a long weekend and just look back at your childhood, and maybe if you can find journals or diaries or things that you did. And for me, a lot of times it's little drawings that my mom has kept, and I'll look at it and go, oh, I remember what I was thinking when I saw that drawing, And for me, it's really interesting to look back and see who I was then and how much of that has carried forward into my adult life in terms of organizing things, doing things, drawing things. I mean, that soul seed of me is still that same soul seed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that.
So I think it's smart to take some time to just go back and look and really see if you can find, the essence of who you were then, who might just turn out to be the essence of who you are today. So
yeah,
no
absolutely.
Time to do that, but I think it's a great thing to do. We all had a year where we could slow down a little bit and take some time. And I've had some conversations with people this past year of that, the fact that they did take some time to just sort their lives out, and it's interesting what we all find, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you pursued psychology in college. What did you learn, and where did that take you next?
So going to university was really the first opportunity that I had to be introduced to a much bigger and wider world outside of the world that I grew up in. Like I said, it was a pretty small town, not much prospects or future there. And so when I left home, all of a sudden I was being introduced to, greater possibilities and people from all sorts of different walks of life that I'd never had the chance to encounter before. And that was then catalyzed even further when I moved to London after I graduated from uni. And that's when things really started to open up for me. And like I said, I started to meet people that were doing things that I'd just never even considered a possibility,
Right.
Like I'd got a friend that was at the age of 22, she was like, yeah, I'm just going to start my own business. And I was like, what? Like, I just couldn't understand that a 22-year-old was just going to start her own business, because for me and for where I'm from, that just wasn't the type of thing that you did, Right. So like I said, that was when I really started to consider for myself, well, what is it that I would love, And I started to map out what would my ideal life look like in all the different areas of my life. And like I said, it was being inspired by all of these different people that I was meeting. And that's really what started the journey for me. I was like, okay, great. If this is what I want, how do I go about achieving those,
Right. And that's such a good thing. I mean, I'm working with some groups that deal with kids in urban areas. And it's just like what you said, is so many of them don't have any vision of the possibilities that are out there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you give them a little vision of what's available and what the possibilities are, and everything changes for them instantly. And that's something I'm really committed to, is just giving some of these kids the chance to just see what else is out there, because they're so caught up in the world that they're in, and a lot of it's not very good. And that becomes their reality. So
yeah, absolutely.
So going to London, obviously London is a fantastic city. It's one of my favorite cities in the world, and I could spend just hours walking through London. And, and so I missed that place, but I could see, coming from where you were to a city like that would just open up just a vast array of possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so grateful for my time there.
So then tell us about starting the first business and tips for others wanting to start their own business. You mentioned this, and you like the idea of being 22 and starting your own business. I mean, how did you do it? What did you do to take that big leap?
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of really came about because I'd started my career in a very typical way that kind of society expects you to start your career. I'd gone to university, I moved to London, and then I just got a graduate job, and I was working in an office Monday to Friday, and I was enjoying it, but it just never felt deeply soul satisfying. And I just really got this sense that there just has got to be more to life than just rocking up and sitting down at a desk and working your ass off for somebody else the whole time. And it just never really felt like I was really doing what I really wanted to do. And, as I said, I'd met this friend, and she'd got this, she did it, in fact, start her own business at that age. And so, I saw what she was up to, and I was like, well, that appeals to me. I want to be working for myself. I want to be pursuing what I would really love to be doing. And so I knew that I wanted to start my own business. And when I then thought about, okay, well, what is it that I am interested in? What is it that I sort of naturally good at? What can I offer to people? It was just obvious that coaching and personal development was going to be the thing that I could offer to others, because by that point, I'd already started to shift my beliefs about what was possible. And I'd already started to do my own inner development and personal growth work. So I knew that was what I could help others with. So then I went to work on, but I was still too young at the time. I felt like I was only 23. Wow. And I figured that I was too young at the time to be taken seriously as a life coach. So I was like, I'm going to go off and live a little bit more of my life first, and then I'll come back and start the business. So that's what I did. I went and worked on cruise ships for a couple of years. Okay. And then I went back to London, and I had a part-time job just to support myself financially whilst I was studying and whilst I was setting up the business. And then eventually I got to the point where I decided to quit the part-time job and just focus full-time on the business. So, I mean, in terms of tips, I just have an example of a client that I was working with recently. She wanted to start her own business, but she didn't really know what she wanted to start her own business in. And with her, she was kind of getting a bit tripped up because she was trying to find the thing that would ensure that she was going to be successful, because she was afraid of failure. Mm-hmm. And so rather than trying to figure out and look outside to find out what she should be doing, I actually encouraged her to look inside and to figure out, well, what are you passionate about? What are your values? What are you really interested in? And when she kind of turned the lens inwards, that's when she really started to get the ideas about what it was that she really wanted to do. So, and literally within 3 months of working together, she'd gotten an idea and she'd found her first client already. So in terms of tips, I would say, look inside. What is it that you are actually passionate about? What is it that you enjoy? What are you feeling naturally called towards doing? Because that's going to be far more sustainable and far more enjoyable in the long run. If you're doing something that you actually really connect with and enjoy.
Well, then it doesn't become work anymore. It becomes
exactly
having fun,
Yes.
And right now, I know as I say this, my staff's listening to this, they're going to be going, oh my gosh, we're so busy. I don't know if we're really having that much fun right now. It's just insanely crazy. But I just say, look at the opposite. Imagine if you were doing something you weren't passionate about, and you had to work this hard.
Yes.
I think how you would feel then,
Yeah.
So I think it's right. It has to do with your passion and finding that. And I think some people have a hard time figuring out what that is. Don't you? I mean, are there tricks to figuring out how to get to that point where you can go, okay, this is what I'm really passionate about?
So I think what often blocks people from knowing what they really want to do is the idea that what they really want to do isn't possible. So, a lot of people will say, oh, I don't know what I want to do. And then when I'm in a conversation with them after a little bit of time, they're like, oh, but what I'd really love to do this, but that's not going to happen. And so the first thing I would say is, think about what you would love to do if anything were possible, because the idea that it's not going to be doable is what stops you from being able to access that. And then I'd also say, you don't necessarily have to know exactly what you're passionate about, but just follow the little threads of desire. I realized I wanted to be a coach, not because I suddenly woke up one day and was like, yes, this is it. But it's just because I followed the next step. And so it was like, oh, well, when I was thinking about my career, I was like, well, I know that I want to do something that involves working with people. So the first job that I got was working in the public sector, working in an NHS mental health hospital. So I just followed that. It was whilst I was there that I realized, actually, I don't want to work in the public sector. This isn't what I meant. And so I realized at that point, I thought, well, okay, well, I'll move into the private sector. I'll move into HR. And so I followed that. And so it was really just following the stepping stones, just like, you don't have to know exactly what the end vision is, but just think about, okay, what are you feeling called towards next? And as you follow those little steps and those breadcrumbs, that's when your real purpose and your passion will really start to emerge, because it's all teaching you. You're learning from each step of the way.
Right. So then in terms of, the realization that you wanted to be a life coach or a success coach, I mean, how do you start that? I mean, how do you find clients and customers? And do you just, put an ad in the yellow pages, which I know we don't have anymore, but Google or what? How would you start something? I know how I did it, and it was mostly by getting my work out there, promoting myself, meeting people. I think a big aspect that people don't realize is you got to get out there and you got to just meet people and toot your own horn. No one's going to toot your horn better than yourself.
So exactly. So
what worked for you?
Yeah. So the thing that's been most successful for me that I started pretty soon was public speaking. So I created my own talk, and I just connected with co-working spaces and was like that run events. And I would go and deliver my talk at those events. And so that was it for me. And public speaking has always been the number one way of me attracting clients. As you said, it's a way to get out there and meet people. And it's also a way to deliver value and demonstrate your expertise, basically. So that's kind of been the number one thing for me.
That makes total sense. And then another part of the core of your coaching that I understand is the belief that the secret to success is love. Explain that to us.
So like for most of my 20s, I was chasing success. I was striving for the money. I was striving for the clients. I was striving to get the dream body. I was striving to get the dream relationship. And I was just constantly on a hamster wheel, never really getting any closer. and always struggling to get what I wanted. And what happened was I went on a meditation retreat for 10 days. And at the end of the meditation retreat, I discovered self-love for the first time. And funnily enough, what happened after that was I suddenly experienced more success than I'd also ever experienced before. So, I suddenly attracted more clients than I'd ever seen in such a short space of time. And I thought I'd made it then. I thought, right, that's it. My success is done. Everything's just going to keep, going along like this. But what happened was my sense of peace started to wear off over those following few months. And at the same time, so did my success start wearing off again. And I was like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Why has my revenue all of a sudden started slowing down? And I realized that the amount of peace and self-love that I'd felt at the end of the meditation retreat was directly correlated with the success that I'd seen, shortly after. And, it just kind of dawned on me that the more I loved myself for who I was, the far easier it would be to go and create everything that I wanted to create. Because until that point, I'd been attached to the results, So like if a client said no, I'd feel hurt and upset or rejected, or, I'd be fearful about running out of money, or, I felt like I needed a man in order to feel loved or whatever. And it's that lack of love that keeps our success and our results away from us. But when we can just love ourselves unconditionally, regardless of how much money we have or what our body looks like or what our relationship status is, then it actually becomes so much easier to attract those things and to create those things in our life. Yeah. So that's why the secret to success is love.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think the love and positivity that comes with love, whether you're giving it or, like you said, just loving yourself, it's such an attractive force, when people feel that and they go, wow, he's just so calm and he's so into what he's doing and he loves what he's doing or she's doing. It just is such a powerful force. And
you give off a totally different energy and a totally different vibration that people are just attracted to.
Right. And I just find also, and you mentioned it just a minute ago, when you're focused on what you're doing and how you're doing it, and you love what you're doing and you're doing it for others, and not focusing on what am I going to get from this? How much money am I going to make on what I'm doing?
Yeah.
It's just so much easier. I mean, the fact that in my business, I keep an eye on the money. I know where we're at and I know how we're doing. And I love finance. I was a finance major as well as an architecture major. So the numbers are important. Don't get me wrong. But one of the best things I ever did was bring on a partner who that was her job, was to run the numbers and just get the bills out and get all the stuff, do all the mechanical aspects of the money that has to be done to run a business, so that I could free myself up to just be as creative and passionate and inspiring to my team as I possibly can. And it makes such a difference, when you're not constantly worrying about that money and you're focusing your energy instead on what it is you do best. It makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. You focus on what you do best and hire people to do the tasks that aren't so good at, but they are good at, right? Yeah, so if everybody's just doing what they love, there are people out there that love running the numbers, that love being an accountant, and so that's great. It's an ideal team.
Let them do their magic, right?
Yeah.
So from this fundamental belief, you developed a method for transforming limiting beliefs and enabling people to create life and business of their dreams. You named it the 5D method. Tell us about that.
Yes. So this was basically born out of my own personal experience of, well, as I said, reading my childhood diaries and realizing that I'd still got these deeply buried beliefs, such as I'm not loved, I'm not wanted, and all of these things. I had to go through this process of healing those and letting go of those. And this is kind of how the 5D method came about, really. I took everything that I had been learning from psychology and from personal growth and spirituality in particular, and use that to help myself and to heal those beliefs that I'd got. And so that's how the 5D method was born. So the 5Ds is, first of all, to identify what the desire is. So what is it that you want, first of all, because that helps to set the context of what you're looking at. So what is it you desire? So is it more money? Is it clients? Is it partner? Whatever it is. And then once you've identified what your desire is, then you can diagnose what is in the way. And what will always, if you don't already have your desire and you're struggling to create your desire, it will be because there is some kind of unloving and limiting belief that you hold about yourself that's in the way. So it might be something like, well, I'm not good enough for that. I don't deserve that. And these can be buried quite deep. They're not always immediately obvious to us what those are. And so once you've diagnosed what the belief is, then you can work on detaching it. And so detaching from that belief is really about just seeing that whatever that belief is that you have acquired, it's really just an interpretation. It was an interpretation that your brain has made up in response to something that probably happened in childhood, but it's not actually true. And it's really just about letting that belief go and choosing to see that it's not actually true, and forgiving yourself for believing it in the first place. And so once you've created that detachment, then you can declare what is really true about who you are. What does your heart know to be true? What are you already grateful for? And can you see that you are already the person that you really are wanting to be? And then the fifth D is to go and take action, right? As you said, we do need to take action. We can't just sort of sit around and expect our desires to come to us. We also need to do things. But obviously doing things is so much easier when we've let go of these limiting beliefs. So that's the 5D method in a nutshell.
That's very good. I love that. And, I agree. I think so many of us get so caught up in worrying about what other people think of us.
Absolutely.
Their perception is of us, and it really doesn't matter. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
Your perception of yourself matters more than anything. Because
absolutely.
I tell my kids, like, don't worry about what they think about you. I mean, they're worried about what the people are thinking about them.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
They're not even thinking about you. So,
yeah, exactly.
I think,
and that's really what the 5D method is all about. It's all about helping people to change their perception of themselves, because that's the only thing that really stops us from going and doing the things that we really want to do. It's how we see ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think part of it is like what you've been saying, and I just love this, is just start living the living and being the person you want to be. And just incrementally. It doesn't have to be overnight. Everyone wants to get to the finish line so fast. And like you said, which I love, it's a journey. Enjoy the journey of it.
Yeah,
and I think,
absolutely.
I tell people, and my team especially, I say, just start. If this is what we're going to create, and this is what we're going to do. And fortunately, we've got a great metaphor in what we do and create in architecture. We draw. We have a dream. We put a couple ideas on paper. We formulate the dream. We start developing, and then we build it. And does it come out exactly like we put the plan? No, it never comes out exactly perfectly, but it's pretty darn close, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. It's like, I just don't think people put the time and effort to put where they want to go on paper. And like my wife, she's so good. She does like vision boards. She'll cut pictures out and go,
love that.
I want to go here. I want to do this. I love this outfit. I want to dress like this. And she puts this whole vision board together. And it's just fun because I think we are also visual, and sometimes just seeing that visual every day burns in your subconscious, and your subconscious then seeks that outcome.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I think I love the synergy with architecture here. Like, we all get to be the architect of our own life,
Totally. Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get any building permits or comply with any codes. You can build whatever the hell you want to build. That's what's so great about it.
Sometimes there are society's rules that get in the way, but only if we allow them,
Yeah. So many times people spend so much time preparing, setting up, studying, worrying, whatever it is. They are still in the stage of not taking action. I would tell people, the best way to hit the target is don't aim endlessly. Get close, aim, and shoot. And then when that arrow's flying, steer the arrow,
Yes.
Push it here, push it there. But I see so many people that are frozen and just they can't drive the parked car,
Yeah. I agree. And I think one of the reasons why I have been successful in my business is because I didn't wait for things to be perfect before trying, like I just went with the next idea. So, when I started my business, I thought I wanted to be an emotional intelligence coach. So that's what I built my website about. My business brand was Emotionally Intelligent Coaching. I created a talk about emotional intelligence. And so I just went with that. And it was by doing that and just taking those steps that I learned actually what I really wanted to be doing. And I iterated, and I changed. And that's how I've gotten to where I am now. I didn't just start my business knowing I was going to be a success coach and talking about everything that I'm talking about. I just, followed the next step. So you can always iterate along the way. I say, I have a phrase that I use with my clients, which is progress is the new perfect.
I love that.
So rather than getting it perfect, just focus on progress.
Yeah. Just keep progressing. Yeah. And that's so true. And I one thing that intrigues me about what you do is, and I'm equating it again to architecture. When I first started, I knew quite a bit, but I know so much more now based on, just every client and that experience and what went right, what went wrong. And you just create this huge database of wisdom and knowledge that you have instant access to, which is so great. Now I'm at age 60 that I can do that. But I bet you learn so much from every interaction and every client that you deal with. I bet it just adds to your repertoire of knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like sometimes working with my clients is eye-opening for me and my own personal growth as well, because we're all mirrors of each other. So like sometimes they'll be sharing stuff and then I'll be able to see that in me as well. So yeah, absolutely. Every coaching session builds on the last one, It
does, doesn't it? And it's very intriguing. And I bet you run into all kinds of different people, all different walks of life, all different cultural backgrounds. And what I wonder is, do you see an underlying thread of consistency in what people are striving for or their fears? I mean, I think we all have our fear of failure. I think we all, and I think there's the imposter fear. Do I really deserve this? Am I really as good as I think I am? What are some of the things that people fear, or what are some of the roadblocks that most people have that you see?
Yeah. I mean, you've just described it perfectly. I do see, every person is unique and different, and they've all got their own set of circumstances and the different businesses or the different ideas and the different backgrounds, the different upbringings. But I don't actually see the differences, and I actually see what is the same between them all. And what is really the same is that everybody really is just looking for, well, first of all, they're looking just to feel good. But really they're looking for that sense of worth and that sense of value. We all just want to know that we belong. We all just want to know that we have that sense of value, that we make a difference, that we can make a difference. Yes, exactly. And that is really what is at the core of everybody that I work with. It's that they just want to feel worthy and valuable, and they've got something to offer. And they do. It's just that, years of experience and things that have happened to them in their lives and things that parents said or failures that they've encountered has had them believe otherwise. And so my job is to help them to undo that conditioning and undo that believing that they've acquired, and actually see that you do have worth, you do have value. And the only thing that's getting in your way is your belief that you're not, essentially.
Yeah. So when you mentioned the 5 Ds, the one that caught my attention was the detach, which you just kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
And that's probably the hardest. That's the hardest one. That's probably the one you have to work at the hardest to get on the path to the other 2 Ds that remain, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think those roadblocks are tough things. And like I said, a lot of them are formed from our childhood and things that people told us and we just absorb and hold onto them. But they're not serving us well in our adult life or in our career, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So in terms of what you do in terms of coaching, what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy coaching people on their personal path, or do you enjoy coaching businesses and people on their success path?
I love working with business owners because obviously I'm a business owner myself, and that's been my journey. And so yeah, I love working with business owners. It's not, and yes, I do love helping them to create success in their lives, but really the success that they create is a byproduct of how much they just love themselves deep down, basically, and letting go of those feelings of unworthiness and a lack of value. And so I guess that's the most rewarding part of it, when you see a person just really open up and to believe in themselves and to connect with their worth and value, and to just really start loving life and enjoying themselves and life again. That's the real most rewarding part. And I know that as a result of that then leads to the success in their lives. So the success that they create and the bigger business or the more money is always just like a byproduct of that. So it's the cherry on the top.
Yeah. So we always hear the metaphor also of, people that are super wealthy and money doesn't buy you happiness. Okay. Do you see that from your coaching? Do you see wealthy people that you would think, oh my God, they have everything here and they are so miserable?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally possible. And this comes back to what you're saying about the detachment, which is that we have to understand that nothing outside of us can ever make us feel a certain way. So you can have all the money in the world and still be really miserable. You could also have no money at all and be the happiest person that there is, right? You could have a partner and still feel lonely, and you can be alone and feel connected to everyone. And that's because nothing outside of us actually is what determines how we feel. The only thing that determines how we feel is what we interpret and how we perceive whatever that is. And so that's how I help people to detach their beliefs, by coming to this realization, first of all.
That's so good.
And like I said, once we recognize that nothing outside of us can make us feel a certain way, and we have ownership over how we feel, that's how we detach. And like I said, that's how it makes it so much easier to then just go and do the things that you want to do, or create the things that you want to do, because you know that whether you have it or not isn't going to upset how you feel inside.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so good. So in terms of like, if I decided to come see you, how does the whole process work? I mean, is it a long process? Is it a short process? Is it an ongoing process? Tell us a little bit how the whole system works.
Yeah, so I've got a range of options. So I have a 1-month program, and then I've got a couple of 3-month programs. And one of the 3-month programs is in a group, and the other 3-month program is private coaching, basically. So I always work with people for, as I said, like a minimum of a month. It's not just like a one-time session, because it really does take time to reprogram our mind and to undo these beliefs and to really shift into this new way of thinking, basically. So I've got a range.
Yeah, so it's like going to the gym, right? I mean, if you go to the gym every week, you're going to get stronger, you're going to get fit. And I think more people need to realize it's the same thing for your mind and your soul and your
absolutely,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So put a little effort into it. It's amazing the outcome you might see, and it happens pretty quickly, I think, too, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it does. I mean, I do have clients that, will have just one conversation with me, and that will create a huge shift. Like I've had some clients that have become suddenly fully booked with clients after just one conversation with me. So it can really happen that fast. Yep. But obviously, the more you do that, then the more results you're going to get.
Yes, I love that. So let's see, there's a couple other things here. The Soul-Driven Success Accelerator. Tell us about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's my private coaching package. So it is 12 sessions, which can be scheduled at a person's own pace. So typically I recommend that a person has sessions weekly for at least the beginning. And then if they want to drop to every other week, that's absolutely fine. So it's the private coaching package, which is 12 sessions, like I said. And then there's also the 6-Figure Success Accelerator, which is also 3 months, but that's a group experience. So it's 4 people for 3 months, and I coach each person 6 times throughout the 3 months. And the people are then, so they get their own coaching sessions, but they're also being coached by watching the other people in the group being coached as well. Because, even when you're listening to somebody else being coached, you do get your own breakthroughs. You have your own insights and realizations that come up as well. And then I've also just launched a new program, which is called the Next Level Success Accelerator. And this is my 1-month program. And it is, again, it's a group program. It includes 4 group calls where, again, I'm coaching everybody through the method at the same time. And you also get unlimited support from me throughout that month as well. So this is kind of like just a shorter, easier access option. And it also comes with a money back guarantee as well. So if you're at the end of the 4 weeks, if you feel that it hasn't made any difference to you whatsoever, despite the fact that you've, been showing up and doing the work, I will give you your money back. I'm that confident in its ability to create a difference.
I can tell this by listening to you. So one important question I have: do you accept Visa, MasterCard, and Amex? Because then I can get my points and come to Ibiza and meet you.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and all of my work is online actually. So anybody, wherever you are in the world, can work with me because everything is online. So
awesome. And then, are you doing a podcast too?
I do. So I have a podcast called the Next Level Success Podcast. Okay. And in that podcast, you actually get to hear me coaching people. So I'm coaching entrepreneurs and business owners and using my 5D method with them so that people can listen in to hear how it actually works and how it makes a difference them and what the results they get from it. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. I did group therapy, I don't know, when I was in my early 30s. I'd gone through divorce and I was really searching for who I was and, trying to figure out back to my path of my soul and what I was when I was young. And group therapy was just one of the most amazing things I ever did. I mean, it was just, like you said, you learn so much by observing 2 other people exchanging, trying to figure out what's going on with them. You go, wow, so that's not just me that has that thought,
Yes, exactly. And that's another reason why I've started the podcast, because it's really about helping people realize that we're not on our own when we experience our fears and our limiting beliefs. In fact, so many people have them. We're just not talking about them. And I've had that exact feedback from people that it was good to hear that other people are going through the same struggles.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are some of the best tools and techniques you found most effective for reprogramming the mind?
So the number one tool that I use with my clients, it's not a physical tool or technique, but it's really just the act of forgiveness. And so that's really what I'm asking my clients to do when we've figured out what is it that they are believing about themselves. I invite them to forgive themselves for believing that, right? And that's you can do all of the traditional techniques. You can go to meditation, you can do yoga, you can use crystals or whatever it might be, but the only thing that ever really actually gets you across the line is the actual letting go of the belief in the first place, right? And meditation might be a way to get you to that place, but you still have to be the one that actually just chooses to let it go. And that choosing to let go is the act of forgiveness.
Interesting. So forgiveness and detachment, they kind of work hand in hand, sounds like.
Yes, right? Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Okay, so I find you very fascinating. I want to know what is the day of the life of Aimee? I mean, tell me about your typical day.
Yeah, so I love this question because I'm literally just living my dream life these days. I think I've for a long time I had this vision of just living as though I was retired, just sort of going with the flow of my day, not having a particular structure. And that's exactly what I have now. So the first thing that I usually do in the morning when I wake up is I'll exercise. I love training, so I'm very into my fitness. So I'll go and exercise. And then after that, I'll have a bit of time for myself, like maybe doing some reading or some meditation or some journaling. And then the afternoon will be time on my business, coaching, having clients or doing some kind of marketing or whatever it is. And then, maybe in the evening, I'll do some more work on the business. Maybe I'll be catching up with a friend. Maybe I'll do some more reading. Just really going with the flow. And I always have Wednesdays. So I work 4 days in the week. So Wednesdays are always my no client days. It's always just my day for myself. Maybe it'll be to go to the beach, because I do really believe, especially in the kind of work that I do, that I do have to come first. I have to look after my own well-being and I have to be happy and healthy within myself. Because if I'm not, then it's going to be even harder for me to serve my clients, basically.
Yeah, I think that's always a struggle we're all facing with, is finding that balance. And it's hard, especially when you're busy like we are right now. It's hard to carve out that hour or even 20 minutes to get on the Peloton and get a little exercise. And, I like to then hop in the jacuzzi and do a little meditation. My wife is excellent at it. She's so disciplined. She'll do 2-3 hours a day doing all the things that really help, keep her going. But you're right. You got to do it. You got to take care of yourself, because if there's no fuel in your tank, there's no fuel you can give to anybody else. Exactly.
And that's what they say when you get on an airplane, right? And they give the safety briefing. They tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first, because then you can help others.
Right. Good point. So what are some of your favorite books that you read recently, or just your all-time?
So my all-time favorite book is a book called The Way of Mastery, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with a book called A Course in Miracles, but it's kind of a similar book to that. It's a bit of a spiritual Bible. So The Way of Mastery is a slightly easier version of A Course in Miracles. And that's really what has been so fundamental in my own shift in my consciousness and my understanding and my journey of self-love. And so I'm actually reading that for the second time now. So that's my number one go-to book. But there was also another book which I think deserves mention, which is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers.
Oh, I love that.
So I read that book when I was, in my early 20s. And that was the book that inspired me to create this vision for my life and to have different areas of my life in which I had ideas and goals of things that I wanted. Because at that point, my life was just all focused around the relationship I was in at the time. It wasn't very balanced. So that was the book that really helped me to broaden my life and my vision and to go for it. So definitely recommend that book as well. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
What about favorite podcast?
Favorite podcast? I'm really into Abraham Hicks at the moment. So I'm listening to Law of Attraction podcasts, which are always great. So that's the kind of main informative one that I listen to. But normally I listen to music. I'm a big fan of music as well. So if I'm listening to a podcast, it'll probably be music.
Well, this has been awesome. It's been great. I feel like I've known you forever.
It's been so much fun. I've loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will definitely make it to Ibiza. It's definitely on our bucket list of places to go. So we'll stay in touch.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks for joining us today. And all of this content is just fantastic. I really encourage my listeners to hop on your podcast. I know I'm going to. That just sounds very, very intriguing. So how do we connect with you?
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram. That's probably the best way. So my Instagram handle is next.level.success.coach. So I post content on there. My podcast is called Next Level Success. So you can find my podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or whichever podcast player you listen to. And then there's also my website, which is aimeeteesdale.com. You can find out more about my work there.
Perfect. We'll add all this to our story notes. And I just want to thank you again. Now, it's got to be kind of late. And what time is it in Spain right now?
It is coming up to 6:00 in the evening.
Not too bad. It's almost time to go down to the Moye and have a glass of wine and shrimp or something, right?
Yes, exactly. Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Aimee. I've become a big fan. Your podcast is amazing and your message is spot on. We have more great podcasts coming to you in the weeks ahead. So stay tuned and thanks for your continued listening. Our podcasts keep growing nicely. Thank you for the ratings and reviews. We have started our contest again for those that give us ratings and reviews. Here's how it works. Those that give us a rating and review between now and July 1st will get their name in a drawing for one of our Candelaria design tours. We will cover their round-trip airfare for the tour. I just returned from the Oregon Pinot Country, and we have an amazing tour coming together there. So stay tuned for more details coming on that. So go right now and give us a rating and review along with a subscribe, and then email or direct message me that you did that, and we will get your name in the hopper for this drawing. We do our best to inspire living in everything we do, from our podcast to our cooking classes to our tours, and of course with our Candelaria design homes. Okay, have a great week, everyone. Stay safe, and let's all live our lives with love, compassion, grace, and positivity. See you next week. Because Inspiring Living is all about the people and the organizations that inspire us, we are excited to have Monogram Appliances as one of our sponsors. Anytime we do a new kitchen or a kitchen remodel, Monogram Appliances are what we recommend to our client. Their appliances are the definition of luxury. meticulously detailed using the finest materials and an ownership experience that is second to none. This is how Monogram is always thinking ahead and inspiring and elevating the kitchen experience. Because at Monogram, they don't just elevate one thing, they elevate everything. I want to say a big thank you to my good friends at Stockett Tile and Granite Company, where your project is our priority. I want to thank the Stockett team along with so many others who contributed to the success of our fabulous demonstration kitchen in our new Candelaria design office expansion. You will have to check out our online video cooking classes, and our kitchen is amazing. I've had the pleasure of working with the Stockett team for nearly 40 years on many spectacular projects, and trust me, they are the epitome of excellence when it comes to tile, marble, and granite work, bar none. Their skill and customer service is impeccable, and the bottom line is they are just good people. I have traveled with, dined with, and just had good times, both personally and professionally, with Dave Stockett and his lovely wife, Becky, and they are the best. When it comes to your next tile and stone project, make sure Stockett Tile and Granite is a part of your team. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. We encourage you to write a review, screenshot it, and share it with your friends. Please instant message it to me and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights to inspiring living next week.